right, so this week in our art video, I wanted to do Psalm 16:11 so that we could review about how God makes our path clear if we spend time with Him daily and we are able to recognize His voice. So I started out with some Arrow stencils and my distress paints or distress oxides, and started putting arrows all over the page in different colors. And I wanted to make them go all different directions and be all different colors because it would remind me of kind of how life is when God isn't giving us our direction and we're choosing our own path. What happens is we tend to just be kind of running around like a chicken with our heads cut off, and we don't really know which direction to go. And so I pulled out my inks and decided to just do a bunch of different arrows in different colors. And I wanted it to be really bright because the graphics that I'm using today are from Beautiful Good News, and they are these little bright, cute chickens with glasses on, because we're going to talk about how we want to see things the way that God sees it and go with His vision for our life. So I wanted to use these bright colors. Remember, these are water reactive, so you have to make sure that if you are going to put anything over them, you're either going to want to seal them with microglaze, or you are going to want to use something other than these distress inks, because if you're going to put glue and stuff like that over them, and I do end up doing that later in the video, I glue the birds down, but I don't use a wet glue. I use some double-sided sticky tape so it doesn't affect this, and then later I will go back and just seal the whole thing once it's all finished. So I just continue to do that with the Arrow stencil. Okay, so once I got that finished, then I went ahead and pulled out my graphics that I'm going to use today. And I said this earlier, they're from Beautiful Good News. You can find her on Etsy. I'll link her shop below the video. And I went ahead and fussy cutted all of the little birds that I was going to use. I decided to use the blue one and the purple one for this layout, and a couple of the pieces of eyewear, the eyeglasses. So I cut all of that out and got those ready to go on my page. So once I got those all cut out, I found this, I don't know, I guess I would call it a prayer block. It's just a little prayer block. It was part of another kit that I had downloaded from Illustrated Faith's Print and Pray shop, and I wanted to be able to write a prayer, so I pulled that out to go on the corner there so that I could go ahead and write my prayer down there. And remember, this is where I had to be really careful to not mess up the background because I didn't seal the page. So I pulled some of my gel glue and put it on the back of this because it was done in heavy cardstock. So I just put it on the back of it really carefully and made sure that I didn't get it too gooey, so that when I put it on the page it wouldn't really squish out the edges, and so that way it wouldn't smear my ink, because I didn't want to smear it. So I had to be just really careful, and I just pressed down around the edges, and I did not go over the top of it with the glue like I normally would, because if I did, it would smear that stuff. So normally I would have printed that on sticker paper, but it was just a leftover I had in my stock box. So the rest of these I printed on sticker paper, and that way I didn't have to worry about that or have that issue. So they were just easy. I just peeled them off and stuck them on the page, and I just put them kind of in two different directions there. Again, I was going with the idea of everything being directional, because the only way that we can truly get a clear path is when we're listening to God's direction. But as humans, we tend to look in different directions all the time. So I kind of just like turned them like sideways, like one was sideways and one was leaning the other direction. It just reminds me that, we have to always seek God and His direction first, and we need to see the world through God's eyes and not through our own. And so these cute little eyeglasses are a reminder to look through a lens that's not necessarily my own eyes, but of God's lens. So that's what that was for. And then I had cut out a title for my page in vinyl. I cut it out in a purple vinyl because, again, I wanted to use these bright letters. Oh yeah, and I forgot, I cut out the letters. I cut out the words out of that handout as well that said see, just to remind me to see through God's eyes. So that's what those two little black squares are. You can't really see them that well in the video, but so then I got my title. I had cut it out of purple vinyl, and I am going to just lay that down on the page, and I'm going to lay it down across the top. And when you're working with vinyl on a page, you don't want to use transfer tape because it will pull up it'll pull up the vinyl. It won't really stick because it doesn't stick well to like gessoed pages, and I did gesso this page before I started. So I just put it down with my hands instead. I learned that not long ago, actually, when I used vinyl in a live video in my Facebook group, and we were working with it, and I figured out really quickly that transfer tape doesn't work on paper. So it's easier just to do it with your hands. So that's what I'm doing here, is just placing my letters on the page with my hands and putting them where I want them to go. And it's going to say, Lord, make clear to me my path. And that is actually what God says in Psalm. In this verse, He says, I will make clear to you the path, or make known to you the path that you should go. So I really wanted to remind myself that I don't have to worry about what direction I'm going. All I have to do is listen to God and His direction and follow the arrow that He is pointing me in, and not worry about all the arrows going in other directions. Only follow the arrow that He is showing me and guiding me. And if I do that, then I'm going to end up in the destination that He wants me to be. And so that's what this whole page is about really truly getting to that destination that God wants me to go to, and not my own, because it's really easy for us to get caught up in what we want in life and forgetting that God already has this amazing plan for our life, and it's so much better than what we could imagine. And if we are just willing to stop for a moment and look in the direction that God's pointing and walk that direction, then our journey and our adventure is going to be so much more amazing than what we could have imagined and planned on our own. So I pray that God will truly show me the path that He wants me to go. So that's kind of what I've been doing here. So then it was time for me to go ahead and write out my prayer on that little prayer block that I had stuck down on the page. So I just grabbed an ink pen. I probably should have used a Micron permanent pen, but I didn't have mine near me, so I just grabbed a regular ballpoint pen and started writing out my prayer. And my prayer was that God would show me the path that He has for my life and make it very clear, but not only that, to also give me the courage to follow it, because I think it's really easy for us to, sometimes see the direction that God wants us to go, but to make excuses as to why we don't go that direction or can't go that direction, because we're, fearful, or we don't think we have what it takes, or for whatever reason. And so I don't want to be that person, and I don't want you to be that person. I want you to see God's path and seek it very clearly, and then have the courage to step into that purpose and path that God has for your life. So that was the prayer that I wrote down there in my little prayer block. And so then I decided to do my splatter painting, because this is a really bright, colorful page, and you guys know how much I love to do the splatters at the end of all of my art. So I took the same inks that I used for all of the arrows that I put on the page, and one at a time I just put them on my little glass surface and added some water to them, because remember, they're water reactive, so they're very easily turned into just like paints if you wanted to do that with them. And I took a small brush and I splatter painted all over the page with the yellow, and then I moved on to the orange, and then I kept going through all of the colors. And remember, when you're doing splatter paints, if you use a big brush, you're going to get big splatters, and if you use a small brush, you're going to get small splatters. So I used a fairly small brush here to make these small splatters, because I didn't want it to just overpower the birds that were on the background. So I used kind of a small brush to get little small splatters, and it turned out super, super cute, because it kind of like speckled the glasses on the birds, which made me think about how sometimes our vision gets a little muddy and dirtied up in life, and so we tend to lose sight of the path that we're on. And once we clean that off, we're able to kind of see that. And I feel like that our daily walk with God and spending time with Him helps us to kind of clean those glasses off and get clear with our vision and where God wants us to be. So I thought that turned out super, super cute, and I just loved it. You can also do this with watercolor paints or acrylic paints as well. I just wanted my colors to match exactly with the arrows that were on the background, so I used the inks that I used at the beginning. But you can do the splatters however you want. But you guys know I love splattering my stuff at the end, so I couldn't help it. I just wanted to do that, and it turned out super, super cute, so I'm glad I chose to do that. So once I finished doing all the splatter paint, I pulled out my Bible journaling date stamp, which has all kinds of options that you can put on it, like it'll say prayer, or it'll say blessings, or whatever you're journaling about, and then the date out beside it. So I turned this one to prayer, and I date stamped it at the top and the bottom, and that's how it turned out. So then I got this great page marker from Beautiful Good News. I did not know what I was buying it for, but God knew, and it was perfect for this page. It was some little sunglasses. So I put them on and marked the page. Aren't they cute? You got to check out her site. Anyway, I hope that you guys have been inspired by this. I hope you'll make your own pages. Here are the finished pictures of how it turned out. I absolutely love this page, and I love what it stands for. Enjoy, guys. Have a great day.